Welcome to the 7th episode of Conversations with the Hoff. I'm Steve Hoffman, your host, and in the studio with me today is Randy Oporowski, another fellow libertarian, and our executive director of Liberty Crack Media, Trip Detmering. Before we start, a few words from Trip.
Hey, I just want to let everybody in our listening audience know that even though this is the 7th episode, this is going to be the first one of 2026. But we're going to be doing 2 tapings this week, and then we're going to be altering a little bit with the release dates of Conversations with the Hoff, and we're going to let everybody know about that because usually the release dates would be on today. But we're going to be redoing those 2 Fridays along with our brand new Microsoft monkeys that is
Apple or Microsoft?
Yeah, there we go.
You said Microsoft monkeys?
I'm sorry, Microsoft monkeys. Microphone monkeys. Today has just been... It's been kind of like a Monday on this Tuesday. It's kind of strange. We also have Teresa Unruh is going to be unveiling her new podcast, which is Dream, Build, Achieve. Yeah, that's going to be coming out. And the women really should be tuning into this because it sounds like it's going to be really awesome for those ladies that want to be makers or are makers, but they want to be successful at doing it. So we are also going to be revamping our website coming up this year. And we also are welcoming Randy onto the staff. He is going to be taking care of updating all of our social media announcements and keeping us up to date on all that kind of stuff because he is awesome at doing things like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So we're going to kick off today with some more intelligent, wonderful, insightful views from the Hoff.
Thank you, Trip. In the previous episodes 1 through 5, we talked about how this country was slowly drifting towards socialism. We looked at the Woodrow Wilson administration and the progressives, then looked at a bunch of other administrations where they continue to increase the size and scope of the federal government, and they continue to infringe on our economic and individual liberties. That was very depressing, those 5 episodes. So we took a break. We took a road trip.
You took a cruise.
I did that too. There we go. So we took a break and we took a road trip to touch base with the people, places, and documents that help to make America not only the land of the free, but the land of opportunity. So now we're going to have to get back to this socialism thing. We're heading down the road to socialism or the road to serfdom. So as libertarians, are we just supposed to sit back and take it?
Not on my watch.
Hell no.
No, hell no. Not no, but hell no. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what we can do to get us headed on the right direction again, to make our country free again. And we're going to start off by looking at how we can downsize the size and scope of the federal government. So let's take it away and have a conversation on how we can do that.
That's all I got to say about that. That's all I got to say about that.
So I'll start it off. Basically, our founding fathers developed this Constitution, and that Constitution limited the scope of the federal government. All you have to do is look at Article 1, Section 8, the enumerated powers. These are the things that the government is supposed to do. Nothing else. Everything else should be relegated to the states or we the people. But of course, this is now 2026, and forget about the Constitution. It no longer applies. We are doing all kind of things that the founding fathers never envisioned. So, Randy, how about starting us off here?
So we're starting small, just striking the largest organization in the history of human civilization. I think of libertarians, the state is like my 600-pound life, and libertarians are like Ozempic. We come in, the federal government is like the Chris Christie Ghostbusters phenomenon, and it's grown so large, it's completely out of control in every single direction, and we need political Weight Watchers to step in.
That's the first time libertarians have been compared to lizard venom.
And the 10th Amendment is like a restaurant menu. If it is not listed, you don't get it.
Ooh,
No.
I like that.
So back to Article 1, Section 8. That particular article listed some general welfare powers that were the responsibility of the federal government, as well as some common defense powers. But only those powers. For instance, the federal government could borrow money, regulate commerce, coin money, punish counterfeiting as part of the general welfare powers. And as far as the general defense powers, they could declare war. Oh, that's a unique concept there. Congress actually declaring war. Interesting.
Now,
They
did
forgot that
Congress uncoin the penny?
Yes, they did, I believe.
I thought the executive branch did that. I guess I got confused.
Now, one of the interesting things you probably are not aware of is that, yes, the federal government is supposed to provide and maintain a navy. But what about the Army? Actually, the Founding Fathers were very suspicious of a standing Army.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they gave Congress the authority to only fund the Army for 2 years. So everything would have to be refunded. And of course, we know that today the Pentagon budget today is extremely limited. Wrong. So I think they've strayed away from the original intent of the common defense powers. So what else do we see out there today where the government has strayed away from its initial enumerated powers?
Well,
What about education?
no, yeah, what about education? I'm too stupid and uneducated to know. No, actually, I was educated before we had a federal Department of Education. So I actually do have some learning behind me and not as much indoctrination. A lot of people, it's so funny when I talk to them, they don't realize that the Federal Department of Education only came out about in, 1982?
Hello, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. And that was just so he could buy votes from the NEA and that group. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I dissolving that seems like it would be pretty.
Episode 1 of Microphone Monkeys drops this Thursday, January 15th. If you are into sadism, or just pain in general, tune in on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcast and more.
Yeah, and of course, we all know that we can trust the federal government. And lately, we've been told that the Department of Education will be eliminated. Even the secretary of that department has said it's going to be eliminated. So we can trust the federal government. Wrong. Guess what? All of the programs within the Department of Education are actually being redistributed to other branches of the federal government, other departments.
Yeah.
So the money's still there. Yes, they'll probably have a decrease in a couple of administrators, but you're going to need people to work those programs. So you're going to have to hire additional people in those other departments. So from a libertarian perspective, cut the bullshit and just eliminate all that stuff.
Eliminate programs. Yeah.
Yeah, eliminate the programs. If there's a need for the program, then let the states decide whether or not they need it.
Yeah.
Or if the states don't want it and the people want to do it, then good. Let the people in the city councils or county councils or whatever have educational programs. But it does not belong. There is nowhere in Article 1, Section 8, where it says that the federal government is responsible for education.
Well, I mean, in speaking of programs, we need to have it that these programs are all sundowned, that they have death dates on them. All these programs need toe tags. Absolutely. The other thing they need is oversight. They need to have people who are going to be accountable for every cent, not just every dollar, every cent that's spent on these programs, so that we don't have Leering centers coming up all over this country.
Every law, you're right, should have a sunset clause. This law, we're going to implement this law, we're going to enact it, it's going to be approved by the president, but it's only good for 4 years.
Right.
At which
Like the
time
Army,
we'll
2 years.
have to take another look at it and see if it's still needed.
And our local government should take a really good look at that, because this 1% tax that we've had here in Myrtle Beach should have been sundown 6 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's a leaky bucket. Anything that goes to the federal government, they're taxing people inside the individual states. It's going to D.C. They're going through the money, wasting money, then they send it back to the states. There's nothing that would lose bringing it back where the Department of Education becomes a state-by-state department. Let them deal with it one by one. They're closer to it. Less is more. They can have easier oversight. It's more efficient. You would lose nothing.
And it's kind of
Setting
like
it to the states.
Myrtle Beach is 1%, going to Columbia, getting, put through the process, and then coming back here into the pockets of all these special interests. And it doesn't bring in tourism. I mean, we have no more tourism in Myrtle Beach than they do in North Myrtle Beach or in Surfside.
Beautiful point. That's a beautiful angle on it. And they spend a lot. What's the total tourism tax fund budget?
Oh,
they do every year.
I wish
Ann
I knew.
would know
That's an Ann Dunham question
so-
if there ever was one.
So obviously, government overreach is not a monopoly by the federal government.
No.
We see that in the city governments, the county governments, and the state governments.
And it's aligned with incentives. There's a reason they want to circle it around and take water from one end of the pool and put it in the other, because they make profit off of that throughout the whole system.
But you libertarians are crazy. We need government. I mean, who will build the roads? Well, let's get back to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And the enumerated powers there says that Congress is responsible for establishing post offices and post roads. Post roads. It doesn't say anything about Interstate 95 or the streets in my neighborhood. Well, maybe they're post roads. But the Department of Transportation is one of those departments that has definitely gone overboard, and we're spending billions of dollars every year, expensive projects, or as Obama would say, shovel-ready projects, to increase transportation within the United States and build roads. So is it really the government's responsibility to build roads?
Walter Block has an amazing book called The Privatization of Roads and Highways. There are so many examples of private roads throughout the South, throughout the Midwest, that function completely fine. And I just went to New York City a couple months ago. You pay tolls all the way up anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So you're already having taxpayer money go to these. Then you pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars in tolls on top of it. New York City just had an extra transportation tax to limit people going into New York City. You pay for it multiple times over, where if it was private, subdivisions can create their own roads. Communities, it's an adaptive voluntary market. Communities create roads, they connect each other together, and it works completely fine. And a lot of them are done for free in the private market to bring business to community centers, et cetera.
And what New York City doesn't realize is that they'll make more money charging people as they flee New York than try to come in. So,
As libertarians, we want to decrease our dependence on government. So one of the things you'll hear us talk about is user fees. And that definitely applies to roads. How many of you have traveled to Florida on vacation or to go to a cruise port or whatever? You'll see that there's all kinds of toll roads within the state of Florida. And they can make your trip a lot faster if you go by the toll road. Now, with today's technology, you don't have to have buy a strip that you put on your windshield or anything like that. They actually have cameras out there where they take a picture of your license plate and you get a bill for the miles you traveled on that toll road. Well, I think that same technology could be used on lots of other roads. And matter of fact, up in Canada, up in Toronto, that's the way that they pay for a lot of the roads. If you are traveling down a particular road, there's cameras.
Yeah.
They're going to take a picture and they're going to bill you. So user fees would be one way to wean ourselves off of the government's, well, who's going to build the roads? Well, we will.
Yeah.
If you use it, you pay for it.
Randy has figured out a way to save money on his tolls. He exposes himself by going through them, and they reimburse him. You know, when they see the.
Get a James Bond button to cover the license plate.
Okay, what about if we didn't have the federal government? Where would people live? How would they buy the houses? You know, my first loan was what do they call it? The federal FHA loan or whatever, or a VA loan. How would people buy houses? How would we even build houses without the Housing and Urban Development Department?
Well, my first house loan was, and this is during the Carter administration when everything was like, 15, 60, percent. It was crazy. It was crazy rates. But I got a fixed rate loan in Florida through the Pinellas County Bond Act, first home buyer bond. And I qualified for it and got it that way. It was local.
Yeah.
It was county money that they had, and they kept things afloat in there. And it worked. It really did. But then you had the people in the really urban areas, and they were hurting during that time. They couldn't do anything with their properties or anything else because they were all waiting with their hands out for the government, or they were waiting for magic to happen with the economy.
So if you're waiting for government to solve the housing crisis, you're waiting for the wrong reasons. And it's in today's news, the federal government definitely says there's a housing crisis, and the current administration wants to take action, government action, to make it easier for people to buy a house. They're pressuring the Fannie Mae and Fannie Mac to go out and buy mortgages and reduce.
Freddie Mac, yeah.
Freddie Mac, yeah. Not Fannie Mac. That's a buddy of mine. So,
Must be somebody at the Moose Lodge.
but also the administration is interfering in the free market. President Trump recently said that he doesn't want corporations to own houses anymore because people shouldn't have to rent from corporations, those nasty, evil corporations. You know all about them, right?
Yeah.
So what right now, the federal government is definitely interfering in the free market, especially when it comes to housing. You know, Elon Musk and many others have a solution. You don't have to spend $500 for a starter home. There's a lot of technology out there for these smaller homes that are manufactured in a factory that you can put together, and they only cost around $20,000 to $50,000. There are private industry solutions to the housing crisis.
Might I interject? There's another solution. It's to get rid of some things that are blocking the free market from getting housing lowered. One of it is the capital gains tax that is on it. If we have a lot of older homeowners and people who have multiple properties that don't want to be hit with those capital gains when they roll that thing out to be sold, if you could just get rid of capital gains tax on home sales, especially the home sales to first-time buyers, we would really flood the market with new properties, thereby lowering the cost of new homes without having to inject or interfere with the marketplace artificially.
Yeah, get rid of the speed bumps. So Hayek has the phrase spontaneous order. The whole point of a free market is you have a voluntary adaptive market of people that meet and make exchanges, and it leads to adaptive dynamic rates.
Yeah.
Mises had the calculation problem. There's trillions of these transactions and interactions going on. You can't top-down control them. You create blowback.
Yeah.
You screw up incentives. You give the wrong market signals, et cetera. The miniature homes, that could have been developed 20, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
We used to have 10-year mortgages. Now they've expanded to 20, 30-year mortgages, trying to push them to 50-year mortgages. People need housing. That's one of the most elementary commodities people need, and the free market takes care of it.
Yeah.
If you get rid of speed bumps like you're talking about with the capital gains tax, allow the market to compete, don't have strict zoning restrictions
yes,
where
amen.
you have to spend 6 months to paint your shed. You buy a plot of land, can you even put a miniature house that's something like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk has designed through their companies?
Yeah.
When larger companies get involved too, it's to make a profit, and it's providing housing. If you didn't have rentals, people would be living in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
If you couldn't buy a home outright or at a 10-year mortgage, having large companies get involved adds liquidity.
Right.
So when you put all these restrictions in, it makes it more and more difficult. And the easiest solution is free.
Yes. Yeah.
Just let the free market handle it.
And I love our environment. I truly do. But the EPA has not become, it's gone from the Environmental Protection Agency to the Environmental Assault Agency. It is going and assaulting the individual homeowner, the individual property owner, and in ways that is just unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable.
Yeah. Death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is the free market is more efficient in providing goods and services to the population than government. Every time government interferes, there's unintended consequences, and they're normally negative. So government should get out of housing and urban development. What about welfare? Oh, we have to have government. I mean, what if I lose my job? I need those welfare benefits. You will not find the government responsibility to tide you over during a personal crisis in Article 1, Section 8. Yes, we have general welfare powers, but there's nowhere that says that the federal government should run welfare programs. What would be an alternative to having government take care of people in need?
Mom's basement.
Okay.
Before the New Deal and the Great Society, you had charities, you had social community charities, you had Christian charities, and churches. And when you have the state involved, it causes mass corruption.
Yeah.
I'm in property management. I deal with low-income housing. I deal with owners who want to do state grants and et cetera, and deal with people in Section 8 housing. There is widespread fraud and corruption, and you're incentivizing people to stay poor. Derek mentions Milton Friedman had the reverse income tax or something where you can grade the deduction so people aren't incentivized to stay on government assistance, but people will literally move heaven and earth to stay on different forms of government assistance, and it becomes multi-generational, and it incentivizes it. Poverty has not gone down since the 1960s.
Right.
The poverty rate is stagnated because you incentivize it, and the one principle underlying all of this is it's through coercion and through taxation.
Oh, yeah.
What was Lyndon Johnson's program to eliminate poverty? What was it called?
The Great Society
The Great Society, is that it?
Yeah.
is overall.
Yeah, so basically what he did, he put a large chunk of the population on welfare as a means of living, generation upon generation that had stayed on welfare. There was no incentive, like Randy was saying, to get off of welfare.
Well, and his real reason for doing that is so he had a permanent voting block for his party.
Buying votes.
So yes, the libertarian alternative to government welfare would be your local communities, the local institutions, those institutions that we used to have the churches, the charities, the different societies, the Elks Club, the Moose Lodge,
Mom's basement.
Mom's Basement. It should all be privatized. Matter of fact, those forms of charity help you when you're down, but also have an incentive that you're not going to get it forever, so you have to take your own responsibility to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and start working again and start caring for yourself. It's not the responsibility of the federal government to take care of you from birth until death. Sorry, that's the libertarian perspective.
Oh,
We're mean.
Well, and local
mean-spirited.
charities can evaluate it case by case.
yeah.
The federal government cannot. And it is very easy to find loopholes, especially if it's your whole lifestyle,
Yeah.
to get decades and decades and decades of assistance and have multi-generational feedback loop, hamster wheel of welfare. And Losing Ground, a book by Charles Murray back in the 80s, he showed poverty was going down 1% per year for decades. And it flatlined with the Great Society and never went below it because you're incentivizing it. Instead of it being a small single-digit percentage in a hugely rich first-world country, it's consistently in double digits and has been for 60 years.
Yeah.
So as libertarians, we realize that government is not an efficient provider of goods and services. So what are some government programs now that could be privatized? Or, like, I'm thinking Amtrak also. What about rail transportation?
Yeah.
Amtrak, they lose money every year. They lose billions and billions of dollars every year. But yet, we keep saying, oh, we need Amtrak. We need it.
And the if you ever tried to get an Amtrak ticket and stuff, they're not cheap. When you compare it to alternative transportation that's out there.
An interesting point Walter Block had, because he's from New York City, the original subway system was all completely private.
Oh, yeah.
Through all of New York City.
Yep.
Was
Built
private.
by private industry.
Yeah.
And the government took it over, monopolized it. And do you get it for free for all the taxes you pay? No, you have to pay for it constantly, yearly. So they're double dipping on something that private industry created. And private industry makes a profit, and that also incentivizes them to maintain everything, keep it cost efficient, keep it running, so they can make a profit.
Yeah.
Now, the Constitution does say that it's the responsibility of the federal government to establish post offices.
Boo.
Well, what about the running of those post offices? What about the operations, the maintenance? Does that have to be federal employees?
Did you know Lysander Spooner created a competitive
Lysander Spooner had his own
mailing
post
service,
office.
and he was shut down by the federal government?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can't have a competition, and FedEx and UPS have to do packages
Yeah.
legally because they do not allow any form of competition, and they sued him into bankruptcy, even though he was cheaper and more efficient.
And they did investigations for FedEx and UPS when packages were flats, being, like big letter envelopes, but they had to be a certain size, oversized, I guess you could call
Yeah.
it.
What do you use the post office for today?
Well, I usually go there so I could, get yelled at by the person behind the counter.
Once you get
buy
through the
stamps
line.
and mail letters, right? Why not forget about the letters? What about email? What about Discord? What about all these other chat functions?
Well, and also the post office loses money every year. They lose billions of dollars
billions
every
of dollars.
single year. They would collapse instantly if they had to rely on the private
Federal
market.
employees demand they belong to unions, and they demand higher and higher wages all the time, more and more negotiating rights. Where private industry, you have a business plan where either you provide the service to your customers at the minimum cost and the highest quality. That's not the motto of the post office.
And you know who delivers most of the post office's packages now? UPS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, it's okay with me because of the Constitution. If the federal government says, okay, here's a new city, we're going to build a post office. But that should be it. From then on, you should privatize every remaining function of that post office. It would be cheaper, it'd be more effective, you'd get your mail on time, and really, there's really no need. Oh, I need the post office because I have to mail this check to somebody. Well, what about PayPal? What about Cash App?
Oh, yeah.
Technology has actually made the post office, what, archaic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
outdated.
and listeners, the thumping noises you hear is the impassioned beating of the fist on the table by the Hoff.
Another interesting point,
I
Jeffrey
can't
Hummel.
help it.
Jeffrey Hummel made a point in one of his Civil War books. In the 19th century, the only time most Americans ever interacted with the federal government in their entire lives was periodically going to the post office.
Yeah.
That's the Jeffersonian America.
America probably has the most advanced aviation system in the entire world. Our private companies can build the best planes there are, fuel efficient. They accommodate a lot of passengers with a good deal of comfort, but yet those planes have to fly in the sky, and unfortunately, the government controls air traffic. And that system, if you've been listening to the news, is outdated. It's not working right. I worked for a company 40 years ago, and we had a contract to work with the Federal Aviation Agency to upgrade their air traffic control system. Well, guess what? Nothing happened. Nothing has happened. Why is the federal government in control of our skies? That needs to be privatized. You would have a company that would know how to meet the needs of the customer. They would actually fix the system, and it would probably be a lot less expensive than the current efforts being underway by the FAA.
John Stossel did a whole segment on there's one major G7 country that essentially has a privatized air traffic control system. It's Canada. Believe it or not, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
They basically, I think it's contracted out, but the news stories recently, they're still doing things manually with pencil and paper in the U.S. air traffic control. Like it's the 1980s.
Yeah.
It's the 21st century. We're a quarter into the 21st century, and they're doing things like it's the 70s.
Okay, so we've obviously identified the fact that the federal government is too big. It's gone way beyond the enumerated powers that were established in the Constitution. And there are all kinds of departments in the federal government that we could eliminate, and the country will not suffer. The Department of Energy, the Department of Education, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Commerce, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Why in the blankety blank is the federal government trying to control firearms? I thought we had a thing called the Second Amendment where our ability to keep and bear arms was not going to be infringed. And yet we have the ATF. Maybe we need to have a whole episode on that, because that is definitely the epitome of government overreach.
That's a great example of a feedback loop. We get prohibition. It leads to mass orgy of death. And what do they attack? Not prohibition. They don't reverse it. The states did that.
Yeah.
They go after guns. They create all the federal gun laws we have. They create the ATF. They start restricting firearms.
Red
they start
flag laws.
red flag laws, everything, because of a drug war prohibition that they started, and the states had to completely nullify before the federal government reversed and passed the 21st Amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I have a stroke here with the overreaches of the federal government, I just want to have one last word. I take CBD every day before I go to bed. I sleep like a baby. Can you believe it? The government at both the national level and the state level right now are cracking down on CBD.
Oh, yeah.
It's time we put a stop to this madness. And I really want to thank everybody for listening today. Hopefully, you're on the opinion of, like we are, that the government has far exceeded its enumerated powers that were established in the Constitution. And now, a few words from our glorious leader, Trip Detmering.
Well, I just want to say this has been another wonderful conversation with the Hoff, and we want everybody to explore all of the offerings we have with Liberty Crack Media and the network. Tune in for this exciting new program, Microsoft Monkeys, headed up by Randy here.
The head of Microsoft.
And there you go.
We'll get these ads right eventually.
But we're going to see everybody back here next week on Conversations with the Hoff.
Late night coffee, truth on our tongues, talking freedom while the radio hums. Less red tape and more open doors. The founder's vision we're fighting for. Hands off my dreams, hands off my pain. Let the people chart their own way. Conversations with the Hoff. Liberty's the hill we're walking off. From Main Street lights to the courthouse steps. We'll say what we mean and mean what we say. Bibles open on the dashboard ledge. Constitution burning through the pledge. No kings here, just the rule of law and the right to speak without a flaw. Hands off my dreams, hands off my pain. Let the people chart their own way. Conversations with the Hoff. Liberty's the hill we're walking off. From Wayne Street lights to the courthouse steps. We'll say what we mean and mean what we say. Raise a glass to the self-made man, to the hands that build and the hearts that stand. One nation under God's own grace, with room to rise and space to chase. Conversations with the Hoff. Echo loud when the chips are off. Keep the